Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Talkin Kop. It is another full-time match reaction. It is finished at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea 3, Liverpool 1. I'm Matt. I'm joined by Ashley and Kev for the second day in a row here to talk about the champions. Ashley, it's pretty easy to take a 3-1 defeat away to Chelsea under many circumstances, but it's the easiest to take when you're the champions of the league.
Yeah, I mean, the champions were not championing today, but ask me how much I care. Like, it is what it is. I mean, I am not happy with that performance. We'll get into it. We'll talk about some of the players. We'll talk about the selection. It is what it is. Like, I'm not going to cry a river over it, and hopefully no one else is, because we are still champions, and we will continue to be champions, and we will get the trophy at the end of the year, and everything will be fine. So this really doesn't matter.
There you are. I mean, Kev, you might not have a river. Can you cry an Oxbow Lake worth for us? I know you don't like, you've been stated many times, Kev, that you don't like losing regardless of the circumstances.
No. Look, there's ways of losing games. That was meek and toothless and pointless. That was a pointless game. It was impossible to judge any player on that kind of game, given the context of where we are in the season, the fact that we got nothing to play for. Chelsea had everything to play for. But we looked toothless, and it was just a bang average performance from a lot of players who, there's a fair few players, I think, that played okay. There's a couple, and it's a couple of senior players, 2 or 3 of the senior players you expect more from, and they were just anonymous. They were absolutely anonymous. When you needed someone to help out some of the players who, I think between 3 of them have probably got a combined 5 starts this season. You know, they were hung out to dry by some of the senior players. You know, I'm pissed off with losing. I always am. I fucking hate losing, especially today. Especially because of the fact that they're not that good. You know, and we made them look like prime Chelsea, and they're so far from that. We had some really good chances in that game, and we just didn't take our chances. And you know, Robert Sanchez won't get an easier game against Liverpool unless we go and win the title again next year and we're playing at Stamford Bridge, getting a guard of honour. Other than that he won't have an easier day in his footballing career against Liverpool than what he had today.
Yeah, it never really looked like threatening until, you know, we get the obligatory away goal. Ashley, in terms of the lineup, I believe it was 6 changes from the mathematical cementing game against Spurs last weekend. Probably 1 or 2 too far, or just changing the entire midfield is always...
It was definitely 1 or 2 too far. I mean, we had this discussion kind of before we came on here, and I said to Kev, the way that midfield is set up, like, you're starting with a handicap already. Not one of those players gets the opportunity to shine. They need to be surrounded by quality so you can then see, will they work going forward? But if you're going to take all of the second string options, put them together and surround them with a disjointed team, they're always going to look substandard. And, you know, I look at Elliott thinking, I wish he had taken his opportunity today. I think of all of them, he stood out in the worst possible way, but at the same time, he's not given the opportunity to shine, and he's not working with, I don't think those are the right players for Elliott to be working with in that midfield anyways. So I'm just a little bit disappointed with the lineup. I know why Slot rotated, and it's not the most important thing in the world, but I do think that, you know, you saw this in the cup games as well, where it was almost too much rotation and not enough balance. And it's a very fine line where you can push the team too far, and you can have senior players in the team, and there were enough that you would think that would carry them through, but the balance just wasn't right. And it's an art, and I don't think that Slot has found that yet.
Yeah. I mean, Kev, out of the 3 midfielders coming in, Curtis Jones was the one that I thought would get the start. The other 2, Endo and Elliott, haven't had a start yet this season in the Premier League.
No.
They get their first start, and for me, it's kind of 2 sides of a coin, whereas Endo pretty good game. And Harvey Elliott, not a very good game.
Oh, the thing is, Harvey Elliott wasn't playing in the midfield three. We didn't play with a midfield three. And that's Harvey Elliott's biggest problem. He's not a 10. He can't do what Dominic Szoboszlai can do in a 10. He can't do it. It's not his fault. It's just the way he is as a player. You can play him as an 8 or don't play him at all. Because you're doing the kid absolutely no favors. You need to give Harvey Elliott the ball when he's facing play or when he's facing the opposition goal. There's no point trying to give him the ball when he's back to goal, especially when you've got the likes of Chalobah and Koba are just going to bully him off the ball left, right, and center. It's just not his game. And no matter how much anyone, me included, wants him to succeed, he's not going to succeed being a number 10 for this club. And it was telling a mile off his deficiencies. And it's not even his deficiencies. The deficiencies in the tactics for him playing in a 10 with the goal, with their first goal. It was glaring, the problems that occurred, because he was doing what he was supposed to do, is tracking Lavia across the pitch. But Salah didn't sense any danger in Elliott drifting out onto Chelsea's right-hand side. Curtis Jones ending up on his arse. And an overload is caused because Jones, who was on his arse, couldn't get back into cover Palmer. If he was, Endo would have been across to cover Fernandes and would have been fine. But because Jones ended up on his arse, Salah didn't sense the danger and burst the gut to get back. Created an overload in the back post, 2v1. Endo went with the guy who was nearest to the ball, which is what he's supposed to do. Trent is stuck between a rock and a hard place, one between two. Couldn't get out to it. Really good composed touch and finish by Enzo Fernandez. But all stems from people not sensing danger. And whether they're switched off because we won the league or whatever excuse they want to come up with, you go away to Chelsea. Chelsea are going to get chances. And in the entirety of the first half, they should have had 3 goals. 2 of them were poor running from being offside and good defending by us to hold our line. But on another day, we're going in at halftime 3 down with 0 complaints, because that's how easy we were to get at. Because you go away from home and you make 3 changes in the Premier League in midfield with 3 players who've never played together this season and expect any difference, you're having a laugh. So when I first saw the lineup, when it first came into our WhatsApp group, the first thing I said was we'll do well to get anything out of this game, purely because games like this are won and lost in midfield. Theirs is tried and tested, battle-hardened, used to playing with each other, week in, week out, Conference League, you name it. Ours, that's the first time they've put together this season. What do you expect? And that's what pisses me off the most, is the manager didn't help any of these players out with that lineup that he picked, because no one's career at Liverpool for next season and beyond is being judged on that performance today. Any decisions that are going... the idea that people are playing for their futures is an absolute joke. Any decisions that are made on transfers going forward into the summer are not going to come from these 4 games.
I mean, of course, you're talking about the actual management of Liverpool Football Club and not people on the internet. Because people on the internet will definitely use these next 4 games.
No, I know they will, but
ironclad judgments on certain players they don't like. So.
But look, anyone with an ounce of common sense knows that any decisions about the summer business is already well underway, from the players on our side and ones we're bringing in. So the idea that anyone is going to have a stellar 4 games and suddenly they're going to be saved or they're going to be sold is for the birds. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's Kev says there, Ashley, that Curtis Jones was on his arse for the first goal. I mean, it was literally because he slips. But, I mean, we make a lot of changes. We have a few players that aren't quite at the races. And I don't know if it came through on your broadcast, but we were also playing against the current and always future Ballon d'Or winner, Cole Palmer, today, who was just, according to my commentators at least, he was absolutely unplayable. He had 46 touches. But he does make a nice move in the build-up to that first goal where he's drifting out towards the sidelines, and when Jones isn't looking, he makes a sharp cut back in. Curtis Jones ends up slipping and falling, and then it's a tidy finish from them. It got a little harem-scarum there for a bit. Kev mentioned the 2 offside chances, but, I mean, offside is offside at the end of the day. But we didn't look threatening, did we, Ashley, going forward?
I mean, the biggest threat that I felt for most of that first half was that 2 minutes where Ali nearly went for that red card that was thankfully offside. But, you know, as much as I don't care about the rest of, you know, the season, I do care if Ali plays. I would like to have him in net as much as, you know, Kelleher deserves a send-off. So that was kind of the heart and moment. The heart, what is it, the heart in the throat moment? That's what I'm trying to get at.
He would have been off.
He would have been off had it not been offside. I mean, it was poorly timed. Our defense just looked so wide open. It reminded me a little bit of the worst aspects of last year, where we were playing in a way that left a lot of our defenders exposed. We weren't pressing in that midfield the way that we needed to protect the back line. And there were just so many opportunities that, I don't know. I was just watching it being like, we will be lucky to get to halftime with the scoreline as it is. Because, as you said, it could have quite easily been 3-0. And we did not look like we had any sort of answer. It was embarrassing in a way that I hate to see in terms of watching this team. Like, I understand rotation, but there comes a point where, like, you're hanging the players out to dry. And it felt like you were hanging the players out to dry.
Yeah, well, I mean, I imagine a few of them were properly enough sauced over the last few days that a few of them did need to be hung out to dry. I mean, of course, Ryan Gravenberch doesn't even make the trip down.
He's not injured.
No concerns. That was put to bed fairly soon after the lineups came out, that it was just purely a rest precaution for Gravenberch, which Kev, I absolutely nailed that one on the show yesterday when you asked me about the lineup, and I was like, "Oh, I really want Gravenberch to play." Nope, he's not going to play.
Yeah, look, it's one of those things with Ryan Gravenberch, because I think he's played more minutes this season than he's ever played in his entire career, which is what you want to see. But look, it's easy to look good and play against Spurs. Spurs are just fucking dog shit, and they're easy to play against. But anyone else we've come up against in the last few weeks, he hasn't looked ropey, but he hasn't looked himself. He hasn't stood out. You know, he's done a job, and he's not gone through the motions, but he's done the grunt work, and he's been fine. You know, nothing more than that, but he's been fine. You could tell a mile off that this break now is going to do him the world of good, because it's no harm wrapping someone like him up in cotton wool, because next it's going to be a long year. 2025-26 is going to be a very long year for someone like him. And I don't know if it was might have been in the Telegram group when we were actually talking about Yamin Lamal and the fact that he's played 100 games for club and country at 17 years of age. Yeah. He's going to be more than likely consigned to the rubbish bin by the time he's 22, because you can't keep flogging players just for the sake of flogging them. And Ryan Gravenberch at 20, we still forget he's 22. You know,
he's got 5 league titles at 22.
Oh yeah, but there is absolutely no harm in saying to him, relax, enjoy the rest of this year. You've done the hard work. Rest, recover, get into proper shape for next season. You know, because there's nothing to be gained and everything to lose by overplaying players at this point of the season. So I have no problem with him missing out. You know, but I still question not starting McAllister and playing one of Elliott or Jones. I think, and that helps Endo. It helps Jones or Elliott, whoever starts, and you still give someone half an hour at the end of it. You know, you're going away. It's not the easiest ground to go to. They haven't been beaten at home since since Boxing Day. You know, they're unbeaten at home in the league this year.
Yeah, 7 wins and 8 for them. Yeah.
And yeah, I just don't think we helped ourselves in that respect. And I don't think we helped any of the other players, because I thought Salah was awful today.
His touch was like the opposite of what Salah's touch normally is. It was like the ball was repelled from his foot today.
I can't say what No, I'm not. No, it's too early in the day. But yeah, he had a very, very poor touch. Very poor touch. And Jota was just anonymous, wasn't he?
Oh, Jota was terrible.
He's always anonymous until he pops up with a goal. And today he was just really, really
anonymous. He had no service. I mean, you can say one thing that he had no service, but he never made space. I didn't notice any runs he was making. I never noticed him coming short, trying to spin away from players. Just to be an outlet, to be a 9. I didn't see any of that today. It was one of the least effective games I've seen him have for a long time.
It's not like Newton did any better when he came on. Let's be honest. Those 9 options at the moment, it's just such a glaring, obvious upgrade area.
It feels like a few agents of proper number 9, top level number 9s in world football should be just reaching out, just dropping a little message into Richard Hughes's phone, just like, by the way,
like I imagine they have their 9 like sewn up at this point. I mean, it's not going to be released to the media, but I have a good feeling that decision is already done and dusted.
Good. Well, I mean, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Ashley, another player that, I mean, just looking at some of the chat that we've had in here so far, which again, thanks everybody for joining us. To all the Liverpool fans, I know that it's majority Liverpool fans in here. I haven't seen you all since last Sunday. Wasn't the most professional of shows, so greetings, champions. Congratulations to all of us, regardless of what Joey Barton says. It's the joy of being a fan of a sports team. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. Hit the thumbs up button if you're watching us live on YouTube. Get involved in the chat if you want to as well. But Ashley, the chat, there's a bit of division on how well you thought Wataru Endo played. What was your take on him?
I thought he was fine. Like I said, I think that midfield 3 together just doesn't have the same chemistry that we are used to in our regular midfield. And I think if you took any one of those 3 components and surrounded them with quality, I think it's fine. I think the issue is when you try to kind of put all these puzzle pieces that don't really click together, it kind of brings out their weaknesses. I thought Endo did quite a good job dropping back, covering. I think, I don't think Jones had his best game, but I'm not worried about Jones. We've seen Jones's quality. I actually think he's stepped up quite a bit this season. I think he is a really valuable squad player, regardless of what the consistent Curtis Jones haters seem to constantly say. He wasn't the obvious finger pointing issue for me. It was a collective issue, and I think it wasn't specifically just on the player. I think, as Kev talked about, this was more of a system thing where that did not suit these players at all. Like they weren't given the opportunity to show or seize the opportunity that, I don't know, we were talking about Elliott and we were like, oh, I really wish he had seized this opportunity. I just don't think he was even given a true opportunity.
Yeah, and I mean, Kev, the other one who had the opportunity to, I don't think anybody's going to have their career judged in a negative way, but I think it's more likely that somebody can stand out. And it was an opportunity for Jarrell Kwanzaa. Great that Ibu Konate gets some rest because, we were talking about yesterday when we were doing the final 20. I put Ibu Konate in my team of the season, and it's mostly because he's so good, but he's been plagued by injuries. And this season he was able to stay fit. So it's good that he was able to get the rest today. Kwanzaa, unfortunately, I believe it goes down as a Kwanzaa own goal, their second goal.
With an assist by Virgil.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a ton, I don't think, of the blame goes on Jarrell Kwanzaa for the own goal because that entire second goal was an absolute shambles at the back. It's tough to judge Jarrell's season as a whole off of today's game.
I thought he was good today.
I thought he was all right. I think he was okay. Defensively, he was fine. He was good in the air. Won his fair share of headers. Held the line well, came into the side cold. This is only its 3rd start of the season in the league. I thought it was okay. It was unfortunate for the own goal, and the penalty was a hospital pass.
That was Bradley. That was from Bradley.
It started off with Szoboszlai, and Bradley played a stupid pass. Caicedo did really well. He did really well to chase that.
He was waiting for it too. Like he knew that contact was coming, and it did.
Yeah, it was going
to be a penalty all day long.
Yeah, it was a nothing ball, but if you're going to play that pass, that ball has to be fizzed back. You have to make sure it gets there. I thought it was unfortunate with that one. It's just glaring errors. The own goal give us away a penalty stands out. Just he had two instances that led to 2 goals.
We do that a lot, though. That
Yeah.
has kind of been the story of this season. There's been a lot of I think I said this in the pre-match show where I expected a brain fart in our defense, and it feels like that's become too much of a habit, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because, obviously Virgil's not playing next to Kwanzaa week in and week out. That whole back line had a lot of chopping and changing today, but there is a communication issue that's happening there because it's not just a one-off thing. This is got to be the 5th time that it's happened.
But where else could Virgil goes to lamp it, absolute heave it. Kanate is not a wide guy. He's probably 20 inches. His waist. He's probably got a 32-inch waist. I mean, Virgil couldn't have kicked that ball any more accurate. He just couldn't.
I mean, it's like the same thing that happened with Robertson, like a couple weeks back as well. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think there's anything. I'm not blaming any player, but it's very strange the way it's become kind of like a habit.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, the thing is, the truth of the matter is, if you look at this game as a whole, right, you just look at the stats of it, there wasn't much in it. Chelsea had a couple of half chances that they created. Alisson made a couple of saves. I think Chelsea deserved to win it. I'm not saying they didn't, but it wasn't as if we were ripped apart or anything like that. This loss today was on our own mistakes, and that's the frustrating thing. It's our own mistakes of our own making, despite all of the changes that we had, and the fact that we didn't play anywhere near, in an attacking sense, what we're capable of. It's still 2 scruffy mistakes that's cost us a point, and 1 Chelsea 3. That's what it boils down to, and that's the frustrating thing.
Points came from this year. Like most of our drop points come from basically us handing goals on a silver platter to the opposition or scoring them for the opposition.
True.
When you're good, you're good. But I mean, Ashley, we do get to continue our record of scoring in all 18 of our Premier League away games so far this season.
And it was a corner,
it was a corner. So I'm naturally going to come to you because it's turning around slowly at the end of the season. We're still going to be on the lower side of the spectrum of goals from direct set pieces. But this is 2 in 3 weeks now, I think. Both Virgil van Dijk headers from corners. And until the very end of the game where we give away our first penalty of the season, we don't get scored against from a lot of set piece goals. So I was thinking about that today because I saw in the Arsenal game just how many direct set pieces that they concede goals against. You hear all the talk about how many goals they score from set pieces, but they're also conceding a shit ton of goals from set pieces, whereas we don't score very many, but we also concede, even fewer. So it feels like it's turning around is what I'm trying to get at, Ashley. Like the fact that we've got 2 goals from Virgil headers from corners in the last couple of weeks is a positive sign.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's important to kind of look at those statistics at the culmination of a season, because if you look at Arsenal, a lot of those goals that they're conceding from set pieces have happened quite recently, like in their last maybe 7 games or so. And a lot of our turnaround in set piece goals, again, has come in the last 7 games or so. And, teams are going to have ups and downs, but I still think it's such a glaring area where we could improve. It's all about small margins with LFC, and this isn't a small margin of improvement. This could be quite a large margin of improvement. And I hope everything goes smoothly with that set piece coach that they wanted from Feyenoord coming over. I think that's still the plan. I'm not 100% sure if he's gotten those documents or not. But I think having someone there that is dedicated to that craft and not just, a coach that's doing it sort of part-time, I do think that's the way of the future. I don't want his face plastered on a wall. I don't need murals. I just would like to have someone that's there just fine-tuning that aspect of the game, because it is an area that you can tack on a few extra points.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and keep in mind too, it's not like having a set piece coach is a completely out of the blue thing for Liverpool. We did employ Thomas Gronemark at one point as a throw-in coach, which is a
Yeah.
set piece. So that's an even more specified set piece coach. Like that's
Isn't he
like having,
like a DJ now?
yeah,
I'm
well,
pretty sure
that's
he's
like
a
not just
DJ
having a
now.
special teams coordinator in the NFL, but having a punting coach and a field goal kicking coach and a kickoff coach. So I mean, we had a throw-in coach, but I mean, Kev, I couldn't have picked Thomas Gronemark out of a lineup of 2.
No.
So,
I remember reading a lot about him and a lot from him and what he does. And he didn't just work with us, he worked with a lot of clubs. And when you actually read, it's worth digging out his stuff and reading the detail that he went into around movements off the ball and the amount of chances you can manage to create from your own throw-ins in your own half to isolate foot. And his main thing with stuff like that was isolating players, working out a way of players being in such a position that you can isolate opposition fullbacks. And that was his thing. And working out ways of winning throw-ins and creating overloads on the pitch. And we still do it. You still see Trent mainly is the main one Trent and Salah looking to do that. And it's probably something that's stuck with the way we play. And it's just one of those little things. It's not as simple as, look, if you run here and you run there, like for corners, you should get XYZ chance. It's a lot more complicated than that. And especially if you're coming up against sides like, I mean, today Virgil could have had a couple of more. You know, he was
that was coming.
free so often. Yeah, that was coming for a while, and it was really good movement because Virgil made the cross better than the cross was okay. There was a dip in it, but his footwork to create the space for himself gave him that extra half a yard of room that he needed to get on the ball, and it was a really good goal. But it was coming. The frustrating thing was after that happened, we did nothing since. We did nothing after it. We couldn't build on it, you know, because it's ifs, buts, and maybes. You managed controlled possession for that last 5 minutes, 6 minutes plus injury time. Panic sets in because that win for Chelsea today takes them 3 points clear of Nottingham Forest in 5th. And you could tell that they were looking to try to make up the extra goal difference as well. And so we were likely to get another chance or two if we could have controlled possession a little bit better than what we did. But, you know, we just couldn't manage. We didn't manage to do it.
Too little too late. And there was all sorts of kind of rearranging that was happening at the end. You were getting so angry that Chiesa wasn't playing in the 9 until the very last minute. I don't know. Like, there is a level that, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it seems like when we're losing, and it hasn't happened very often, but it does kind of feel like Slot goes into panic mode with his tactics in the sense that
don't coax me.
Okay. Well,
you know what I said. You know what I said in that group.
I just like seeing Virgil van Dijk just playing center forward for the last 10 minutes for me is just like, it just feels like, you know, it's a Hail Mary thing and it shouldn't be a Hail Mary thing. Like,
no. When he made those last changes and he took Costas off, I swear to God, nothing boiled my piss more than what I saw when I saw that.
That's why I brought it up. I
was like, you put Cody Gakpo at left back, all right? You put Darwin Núñez out onto the fucking left wing, and you put Federico Chiesa in the 9. Why did you bring Darwin on? What was the point? He was offside 3 times. He missed a glaring header while he was offside. He's about as useful as a chocolate teapot the last month. And why not just give Chiesa the chance through the middle for the last half hour? Why?
At least he gets a medal now.
I was fuming. I was fuming when I saw that.
Really understand, like, I don't understand why he does that. Like, I'm sure there's a method to the madness, but as a casual observer, it just looks like chaos. Like, and we did it in the Forest game when we were losing with like Bradley at 3 at the back. We did it in the Fulham game when we were losing. Like, it seems like he loses his composure when we're in that kind of last gasp, when in reality, if we just kind of kept the team puttering along, a lot of times there's a little bit of momentum going, and then he makes a change, and all of a sudden it goes to shit. And I don't really know. I don't know what it is about it. And there hasn't been enough times when we've been losing this season for me to kind of look at it as a case study as a whole. But I don't like what I see so far.
But I'd be honest, right? I can't for the life of me understand why didn't he start Chiesa in the 9 today? I mean, I remember watching him playing for Italy 3 years ago. And even when he was playing club football, he can play in that, what Harvey Elliott did today, in that second striker role, that number 10, false 9, whatever you want to call it. He can play off either wing. And he's a better finisher than what Darwin is. He just fucking is. He's more composed. You know, the only thing that he doesn't have you, and he'll never offer it to you, is an aerial threat. Darwin will give you an aerial target to hit, but we don't really cross the ball that way. So I just don't understand. If you're going to bring him on and play him through the middle, why don't you give him half an hour? You know, give him half an hour and see what he can do. You know, what's the worst that can happen? You know, we were already down 2-0.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't even think he's giving him a chance. Like, I don't know what the point of even bringing him in is. Like, he's on 150 grand a week. That's up there with McAllister, with Gravenberch, with our top earners. Oh. And I get that. I don't know.
People forget how good he is.
Just to save face, like, I don't really know what the point was. And you can have a player that you gamble on for a low price, and maybe you try to flip him. But there have been enough times this season where he has deserved minutes, and he might not be the best at tracking back. He jogs back a lot of times. Yeah. But he offers more sometimes than what we've got in the number 9. Like, I totally agree with you. He's a more natural finisher. And
he's quick.
I just don't know what he's done wrong. Like, there's some backstory there that we don't know, because from our perspective, it's very odd.
Pete, there was one there today. There's a ball came in. I don't know if it wasn't in this game actually. Pete said that. Do you remember the Brighton game? Do you remember the Brighton game? That ball, that one right at the end where that cross comes in.
Yeah.
And your man heads it. I backed myself to score that 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 times I would back myself at 52 years of age and 280 pounds to get there. And
you were very adamant. You were very adamant. It came honestly, in immediately.
On my worst day, I would have buried that. But the thing is, I understand Slot was always saying, look, Chiesa is Mo Salah's backup, and that's fine. You know, and if with the season that Salah's put down, you're not really going to take him off. But in fairness, it wasn't until Bradley came on today and became that overlapping fullback that Trent never did today. Trent never got on the outside and created an overlap. That Salah came alive a bit more when Conor Bradley was on the pitch. And, you know, he didn't really do much, but I don't even know if he got a shot off. But while Trent was on the pitch, Cucurella did a number on him. You know, he harassed him, he harried him. I think Salah only managed to get one foul out of Cucurella all game, maybe 2. But when Bradley came on, Cucurella had a real problem because Bradley would create the overload on the outside and run inside and go beyond as well. And that freed up more space for Mo. You know, so going forward, as Conor Bradley gets fitter, I want to see how that evolves. I want to see how that link-up play evolves between Salah, Bradley, and whoever plays as the midfielder on that side. You know, so for the next 3 games, I think we'll probably see a little bit more of that. So that's something to look forward to over the next few games, especially against a side like Arsenal, where, you know, they're going to be, no matter what happens to Arsenal midweek, they're going to come to Anfield and do their level best to come and take 3 points. You know,
I don't want to see another heavily rotated team against Arsenal, just out of principle. No. I don't want to.
There's certain games that you don't want to mess with.
Yeah, just out of principle, like, I don't even think there's truly been a title race, but for the fact that has been the storyline, I want to go out there and face them toe to toe as champions and do the business over them and just kind of put a nail in the coffin that is that argument. I don't know. I don't want, it was hard to take because it was Chelsea. I don't like losing against Chelsea. Like it's not a throwaway game to me. But if you're going to lose, I'd rather do it today. Like I'd rather do it today than against Arsenal. I don't want to roll over for Arsenal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think anybody does.
Well, I would love to be a team that like pushes Arsenal further down that table because there is a real chance that they could be third or fourth the way things are going.
I mean, it's probably too much to ask for Arsenal to finish outside of the top 5. That 5th Champions League spot is doing them a lot of favors in terms of releasing a lot of pressure because Man City seem to be picking up a head of steam. Unfortunately for Davey T, our resident Newcastle fan who's in the chat here tonight, Newcastle couldn't quite get the 3 points over the line against Brighton today, which is too bad.
Last-minute winner or good last-minute equalizer, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were trying their best to get in there. My thoughts on Chiesa is it just kind of feels like that stereotypical stubbornness where like Richard Hughes went to Arne Slot and was like, hey, listen, the window's closing. I'm going to get you Chiesa. And Slot's like, I don't want him. And he's like, yeah, no, don't worry about it. I'm going to get it for you. And he's like, if you get it for me, I'm not going to use it. And Richard Hughes called his bluff. And then now Arne Slot has to be there. And he's like, I told you I didn't fucking want this thing. I'm not going to use it. He's like, just use it. No. And now it's just a line in the sand because I don't get it. I don't get why he's not being given the opportunity because Jota and Darwin Núñez have done nothing to deserve the start over him. And at this point, like Slot clearly promised Gakpo that he would never play him centrally. Because at this point, why wouldn't you just play Gakpo through the middle? Because he cannot be any worse. At least I don't think so at all. I see now we've got some quotes in here, and Ashley, some of these are inflammatory. Some of these are inflammatory. So let's see what we got after the game. Ballon d'Or winner Cole Palmer said, we played well as a team. They are champions for a reason. And then Virgil van Dijk says, obviously we tried, but it wasn't great. The way we trained, the sharpness that we had, everyone was ready for it. We know it was going to be tough at times. We could have done better in the way we defended as a team, but we will analyze it tomorrow and prepare for our next game. I think possession was quite good, but when we didn't have the ball, the pressing wasn't great, and they could find between the lines. There was chances for us to score. In the end, they deserved the win. That's the disappointing thing is we came here to win. We are very fortunate that we didn't lose that many games in the league, and this hurts, and it should hurt. And then Virgil continues and finishes with, even when the job is done, we came here to get a good result. It has to hurt. I'm definitely disappointed. Arne Slot after the match saying, a wise man once said, nothing good comes from winning a football game, and I have to agree with him. The way we lost is more positive, I think. What a shine. What a shine. It was against a great Chelsea team, great squad. Maybe we missed that little bit, which we usually have. We missed a few percentages to get that results. If you look at how we reacted after being 2-0 down, we came back and we never gave up. Our fans didn't give up. Playing against a good team like Chelsea, you can't afford a lot, and that's what we saw today. And about this, like I think the only people in that ground that didn't have fun today were the Liverpool players and coaching staff because the traveling Liverpool fans sounded like they had a ball today. And then the Chelsea fans also would have enjoyed that because it helps them solidify their top 5 place. You know, they get to put a win over Liverpool, which is nice. They had to clap us for a guard of honor, which was absolutely delicious to watch. And they booed the shit out of our players, and good on them for doing that. I would have done the same if my shoes are on that foot. So it's good that the Virgil, like the captain and the manager, are both coming out and recognizing that the players can't be happy with that. Now we get into the spicy bits. Arne Slot on whether the fringe players are playing for their Liverpool futures. They deserve to play these games because they have trained so hard this season. Every time they did so well, so that's why I think they deserve to play this game. We don't judge them only on this game, just like you said, Kev. We judge them every day on the training ground and in the moments that they play for us. Now, here we go. On if it's a big summer ahead. Arne Slot has said, it's already a big summer because we extended Virgil and Mo, and for large parts of the season, I don't think everyone expected that. For us to keep them is a big thing. I've already said that I'm happy with the squad we have. We will see what the summer brings, but sometimes it can be good to bring in fresh energy. That one there, Ashley, it has been a good summer. We won the league only if we see someone in the market who can improve us. Oh dear, the FSG out transfer nuts are going
force today after those quotes. Like there's that. There was the quote that he had, like, I think it was a week or two ago, where he was like, some team, like, it's actually better when teams play together and you don't rotate too much. And I still think there will be players to the door. I don't think there's going to be wholesale changes, though. Like, if we think there's going to be 6 players, 7 players coming through the door, I'm not setting myself up for that disappointment. I think there's going to be like 3, to be honest.
Yeah. Kev?
I think it'll be one in, one out. And that's how it should be. The squad is full. You know, we do have a full squad.
I mean, there's no way we can go again with Darwin Núñez up front.
No,
like,
I
don't think that's
why I said one in. That's why I said one in, one out.
Yeah.
But you look at the squad that was there today. You look at the fact that Gravenberch and Joe Gomez are not in the matchday squad at all. So to me, you have a full squad. So whoever we lose in the summer will be replaced in the window. I don't think you're going to have a situation where we bring in more players than we lose. You know, I don't see that happening. I think if Trent goes, we'll bring in a right back for definite. And then you're looking, if an offer comes in for Costas, if an offer comes in for Darwin, Jota, you know, whatever the contract situation with Luis Diaz, what if an offer comes in for him and he wants to take it, I think the club will probably look at that. But you still have to go into next season and you have squad requirements that you have to meet. You have to have a certain amount of homegrown players over the age of 21. You have to have a certain amount of club-grown players in your matchday squad for Europe. So there's certain criteria that the club are going to have to look at and have going into it, bearing in mind, odds are we're losing Kelleher. Trent is up in the air. More than likely he's going. That's 2 club-grown players gone straight away. Yes, you're going to have 2 more coming into the equation, one of them being Harvey Elliott because he's over 21 now. So he comes into the equation for next season, replacing probably Trent in that criteria. But I don't know if there's another one.
So we have currently, we've got Ramsey that comes into it in 2027, Bradley that comes into it in 2027, Harvey that comes to it in 2027. Or no, those are their contract expirations. Sorry.
Yeah.
Ramsey, Bradley, and Elliott all qualify at the start of next season.
Yeah.
And then we have Morton, who probably goes.
Yeah.
Jones, Gomez, who may or may not go. Kelleher, who's definitely going. Trent, who may or may not go. And then Jairus, who also qualifies, who I think is staying based on reports, but may go out on a loan. So, like, I mean, between Elliott, Bradley, Ramsey, Kwanzaa, Jones, and Jairus, that's 6.
Yeah.
I actually don't think we're in a horrible place. It just depends on what kind of youth they sell. And I do think that will be a component of this summer as well, where we sold a lot of youth players. I don't know what Slot is thinking about bringing in to supplement the youth players that we already have. And that's a big part of the FSG ethos as well, where it's game changers and then it's youth prospects that can be kind of groomed into the first team. And you see that with that young kid whose name I can't pronounce, who's 16 years old, who's a phenomenon.
Rio Ngamoa?
Ngamoa,
yeah. I didn't want to butcher the last name. I think you might see more of those coming in, those types of players coming in, and then just sort of your final cogs of the machine, like that. At least that's what I'm hoping for. So, like, if a Núñez goes out, you get your 9 that you're looking for, or if a Simicast goes out, you get your left back that you're looking for, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, I think Kev just opened the curtain there, and the sun is shining in Ireland, and like a vampire, I think Kev just exploded.
In a poop of smoke.
Being in the sunlight for the very first time in months and months. Well, seeing as that Kev has abandoned us, Ashley, how about you go ahead and go first and give me your player of the game, honorable mention, and needs to improve. That's the third one.
I feel like this is picking from a bad bunch. I thought Gakpo was okay. I liked what he was bringing out in the left wing. I thought he put in a lot of really good crosses. it looks like his energy is coming back. You know, he didn't really have the goal threat, but in terms of putting balls into the box, I think he was our biggest threat going forward. Honorable mention. I don't really have one. I thought Kwanzaa was okay. I know that he gave away that penalty, but I think for it only being his third start, I think there was a few moments, especially one-on-one with Palmer, that he did quite well. Like, he opened up his legs and he sprinted in a way that I hadn't seen in a little while. I thought he made a couple of really good tackles. I don't think he looked glaringly out of place. I just think he's one of those players that this season, I don't know, it's like he walked under a ladder or saw a black cat or something, because he always kind of seems to be at the scene of the crime, but I don't actually think he played too poorly, and the rest were quite poor. Could do better, could basically be everyone else. I think I'm going to give it to Mo because he's a senior player and I wanted him to pull the team kind of up by the bootstraps and help drag the team forward. And this was one of those games that it just felt like the effort wasn't there from him. Like, I think he could have pulled back and done a little bit more defensively this time. I know that that's not what Slot wants him to do all the time now, but I think that sometimes the team needs him to do that. And I think this was an opportunity for him to really step up and help, especially someone like an Elliott that was working on that side with him. I don't think that worked.
Yeah. So. Kev, what about you?
Man of the match is Endo for me. Did his job, did exactly what you want him to do as a defensive mid. Some decent passing when he got forward. There's one time when he actually made an extra run and made the extra run into midfield. Just wasn't found. But yeah, so Endo did well. The thing is with Endo, you know what you're getting. You know, he's experienced, knows his game inside out, knows his limitations, and doesn't stray into those very often. So yeah, he was fine. So honourable mention was Allison. Made a couple of decent saves. One very good save where he anticipated where I think it was
that was good.
He made a really good save with that. Distribution was A1 again. It's what you expect from him. Could do better. Look, Jota was piss poor. I mean, as bad as Salah was with his first touch, Jota was anonymous. Didn't show for the ball anywhere near enough. You know, didn't get it. He wasn't involved in the press. You know, it was disjointed, disorganized. Didn't lead from the front. It was a shadow of what he's capable of, and we know. Look, off the ball in previous years has been his work rate. His work rate is normally exceptional. He was just really poor today. Really not on it at all. Not helped either by the supply. You know, the supply into midfield. Trent's passing, I thought, was Trent very rarely, when he got on the ball, you very rarely saw him open his body and look to get down the line. Every time he got on, this was down to Chelsea in a way. Chelsea never allowed him the time and space to open his body out and look for long-range diagonals or balls down the line. So credit to them, but he didn't create the space himself either. So look, there was plenty of players.
Dangerous.
Yeah, going forward, Bradley was really good. I think Davey put him in there as an honourable, but for me, no. Defensively, I think he's got an issue when he runs back. He sprints back and he overruns his sprint. And players, when they check back, usually on the left wing, you have a player who's right-footed. They almost always invariably look to check back onto their right foot. And he was caught a few times. Palmer caught him really well where Bradley was wrong-footed and Palmer nearly scored a wonder goal. That one that went where he went near post with his right foot and it came off the post and went out. Yeah, it would have been a phenomenal goal. It just would. You know, just
I thought Ali's placement on that. I don't think he should get beaten there.
No, but he was anticipating the cutback.
Yeah,
because
Palmer did him like 100%, and it would have been a fantastic goal.
Yeah, but it's just one of them. But yeah, I think Bradley's got work to do on his defending side. Going forward, I think he's a real threat. Going forward, you see how many options he gives you, especially I think there's more goals in him than there is in Trent. And I think Trent's a phenomenal player going forward.
I
think
have
Brad-
curiosity, just like a left field. Like, do you think that Bradley, and this isn't something I want to see, but I actually think that Bradley plays as more of a threat than Elliott does when he steps in for Mo Salah. Like in those FA Cup games where, Mo Salah is going to get rested. If Chiesa's not playing, whatever, I actually think Bradley can play in that right wing area and provide quite a lot of danger. But I don't want to see that going forward, but just as a conversation, I don't know.
I think that you're not far off of what I think could happen, but Matt doesn't allow me to talk about transfers.
No, I've already broken my own rules.
No,
that's simply because of salacious post-match quotes. I'm
going to say this: if we sign Frimpong, I think you're very likely to see Frimpong utilized in that kind of role.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I think Conor Bradley, when he's played for Northern Ireland, has tended to play as a wing back at times, and he relishes the role. Because it frees him up to play as a right mid who gets into the box. And I think he'll score you more goals inside the box than Trent will score you from outside the box with worldies. Over his career at Liverpool, I can definitely see Conor Bradley being a real goal scoring threat. In the same way as you saw some fullbacks, especially the one that sticks out like a sore thumb is Jordi Alba at Barcelona. The way he used to arrive in on the far post for Barcelona, I think Conor Bradley has that in his locker from right back. And you saw it with Arne Slot, the way he set up his Feyenoord side. The one, I can't remember his name now, Dutch fullback who can play at centre back as well. Gertrude scored an absolute shed full of goals from right back.
He was one of their top scorers at Feyenoord.
Yeah, because of the way Slot set up that Feyenoord side, he wanted his fullbacks getting involved and getting into the box on underlaps. And I think Conor Bradley is tailor-made for that position.
Do you think that's kind of too samey if you had a Frimpong and a Bradley where you didn't really have? I mean, I guess maybe you have Gomez that could always step in and be that defensively minded right back if he stayed. I would worry about the balance of the team in terms of that. To me, is two players that are both kind of doing the same thing. Yeah,
I think Arne Slot's attitude is going to be, if Plan A doesn't work, make a change and make Plan A work fucking better.
Okay.
I honestly
involve Virgil at center
forward. But I honestly think that's the way where he wants to get to. I don't think he wants to. You want to end up with your centre back playing up front, but I think do you know what?
Don't do it, Kev.
Credit where credit is.
No, he won't do it.
That was a really good cross.
Do you know what? That's something you'd see in a five-a-side game in training, isn't it? Where you watch the inside training and you see centre backs going in
his life.
Yeah,
but
look,
it was very good.
How difficult is this playing on the wing? You just take the ball, you move it past the fullback, you put a cross in. It's not rocket science, is it?
I could see him just going in to the locker room afterwards being like, you guys make this look so hard. It's not.
We can touch on that, I guess, too. I'll just give mine real quick. I'm going to give player of the game to Endo, honorable mention to Gakpo, and it could do better, must do better, please do better for Harvey Elliott. The other games, because we were on yesterday during the 3:00 games for the final 20, which were not the best games going out there, but the games that have taken place since then, Ashley, Arsenal threw away another winning position against Bournemouth and lost 2-1. Yep. Not a great run. I think it's 7 wins from their last 17 games for the mighty Arsenal. And Man United lose again. Tottenham scrape by with a draw. Anything really pop out to you from the other games this weekend?
I mean, I think Chelsea seized the opportunity to kind of further themselves up in that table. I think the biggest surprise is that nobody else did. The win for City, I think, definitely helps them as well. That wasn't sort of like a screaming victory. That was just Kevin De Bruyne doing Kevin De Bruyne things. But I was surprised by Newcastle. I don't know, maybe Davey in the chat can kind of throw in a little bit more. I was surprised that they didn't go for it a little bit more. And I guess I'm also surprised at Brentford's recent run of form, because I think when we were talking about like dark horses, I mentioned Brentford, and I kind of did it in jest, but I do kind of think that there's a sneaking chance that they might get like one of those last, maybe.
Just maybe. I mean, Kev, as it stands, it looks like 8th place is going to be the Conference League position, currently occupied by Bournemouth on 53. Then Brentford and Brighton both have 52. Fulham have 51. Like, that's a back alley knife fight for that last European place amongst teams where it would mean a lot, I think, to any of those 4 teams to get that European place.
I think if you're any of these 4 sides and you look at what Chelsea are doing to the Conference League this season, I think any of those 4 sides get into the Conference League.
I think they do well.
Any of the 4 of them can win it and should win it. You know, they should. There's no doubt in my mind. It's a massive 2 points dropped by Newcastle today.
Yeah.
You know, they had to go and win that. It was vital that they came away with a point, because without that, they'd have been behind Chelsea now. Man City, I think, will get ahead of Arsenal. Arsenal just cannot. They're in a position now where, unless you're 2 or 3 up, there's no such thing as a safe scoreline against with them. And it's telling now they're defending in a panicky mode, and they have no confidence when
I just can't believe that he played such a full strength team, given what's coming up, and like you get the same result. Like you could, like it would have made more sense for Arteta to do what Slot did today than I don't know. Maybe that's me.
No, you look at the Manchester United starting 11 today, and they did exactly the right thing. Exactly the right thing. I mean, this season is a wash. It doesn't matter what happens in this season. They made a bucket load of changes. I think they made 1, 2, 3, 4. I think they made 9 changes to their starting 11. The only 2 that started, I think, Ugarte, Dorogu, and I think Garnacho. So they made 8 changes, because it doesn't matter what they do in the league. It makes no odds whatsoever. Everything, their entire season and their club's mid-term future depends on what happens in that Europa League, in the exact same way it does for Spurs, because the difference being in the Champions League and not being in the Champions League for both of those clubs is massive.
They are
like, it cannot be understated.
That will be enormous for either one of those clubs.
Yeah. But the idea, it shows you really, when you look at the European competitions, the fact that Arsenal are in the Champions League semi-final, Spurs and Manchester United staving off, just above the relegation zones in the Premier League, and Chelsea are going to qualify for the Champions League and run away with the Europa Conference League.
And you've got mid-table teams that are then taking those places and competing for Europe. So not only do you have the traditional big 6 competing, you also have all of these teams that are traditionally, some of them are relegation fodder sometimes, that are punching above their weight. Like, I understand that there hasn't been that heavyweight, City versus Liverpool climb to the top, or Arsenal versus City, whatever, iteration of that you're looking for. I understand that hasn't been that exciting, but in terms of the rest of the league, the way that the talent has just spread out across the league is every single team has players that could play for us or for City. Yeah, and there's 100%. Just talent spread across the whole thing, and the money in the league. I think you're seeing, especially in the European competitions, just that gulf that's happening.
Now that you don't have sides like that drop out of the Champions League and into the Europa League, the fact that isn't going to be happening going forward opens the door for Premier League clubs to absolutely just chalk up, UEFA Cup wins and conference wins to beat the band. Like, it'll be very hard for anyone outside of the Premier League now to break into that. So and that's fine. I'm cool with that. But it's just something that sticks in my craw a bit when I listened to Luis Enrique give a press conference for PSG, talking about the fact that PSG have beaten X, Y, and Z Premier League club to get to where they are, that they beat Liverpool on penalties, and Liverpool have won the Premier League. So that makes, it's like, it's my dad could beat your dad argument. It's nonsense. PSG don't go and face the caliber of opponent that Liverpool or Arsenal or Chelsea or Man City do on a week-to-week basis. And it does hurt in the Champions League, because the Champions League is a bit of a leveler. But in the Europa League and in the Conference League, nah, sorry. The Premier League sides should be winning those competitions for the foreseeable.
I mean, PSG is like a marathon winner running with a bunch of amateurs.
Yeah.
For the entire season. And then when they come into the Champions League, yeah, they're with other marathon runners, but they're fresh and they haven't been chased by, you know, however many other marathon runners they're with. So yeah, they can show up, and they, don't get me wrong, I think they're, as a caliber of team, they're very, they're amazing. I would like to see us go in that direction, not in state ownership, but in terms of development of the squad. But I think the argument that, you know, they are somehow as strong as the teams that are fighting it out week in, week out, I think that's flawed, I guess, would be the word.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Yeah.
But real talk nailed it there. PSG is Celtic on steroids. You know, that's what they are.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, Celtic do have Rangers, though. Like, there's even less competition for PSG.
Yeah, I suppose you could look at PSG of Lyon, you know, and that's about it. You know, it's not like Marseille are there like they used to be, or Bordeaux when they were knocking about. You know, France used to have a couple, you know, 3 or 4 decent sides, but at the moment it's just such a weak league. It just is. I mean,
you just look at the team that they fielded this weekend. I mean, they basically rotated their entire team to get ready for the match that's happening this week. And
that one guy's name was Tape. His last name was Tape. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, but it's spelt Tape.
Is it not Tape or something?
Nah, there was no accent there. I'm just going to call that Tape. We'll pull the tape up on this as well, too, because Gav and the lads should have a Sunday night show coming for you. It will almost certainly, I can't imagine a world where it will be as inebriated as last Sunday's show. So everybody can tune in for that. If you had any juicy thoughts about Gary Neville that you're upset that I didn't read out on this public show, please bring them tonight. Repost them for Gav on the Sunday night show. That is more of the forum for creative writing about Gary Neville's oral fixations, but all good with that. The only thing worth fixating on for us, though, is the fact that even after going to Stamford Bridge and losing 1-3 to Chelsea, we are still 15 points clear at the top of the Premier League table, and nothing is ever going to change that. I mean, could go up, could go down. I guess it could change out, but we're still going to be champions.
The champions are not going to change. We are champions.
That's all that matters. Thanks, everybody, for showing up tonight. We'll see you guys after the next match. Thanks, Ashley. Thanks, Kev. Up the Reds. We're still champions.
Yay.